Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me in this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. Thanks for joining me in another episode. I hope that you're finding the information shared on the Nora Speaks podcast helpful, informational. I hope you're sharing it with friends and family and those who you think this information can be useful or relevant to. So last week we talked about, I shared tips on workplace success, helping us to be more successful in the workplace. And so I want to follow that episode up with talking about goal setting goals. Sometimes when we're setting goals, we don't really have a format, a structure for setting goals. And if we set goals that are unrealistic or not really achievable or even measurable, we can be setting ourselves up for failure. And that's not what we want. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about SMART goal settings. So SMART is an acronym. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART. You know, our goals should be concrete, not just philosophical. You know, sometimes we'll say something that we want, but it's not really specific. It's not concrete, and it's kind of in a gray area. And so what I'm going to share is going to help us stay focused. It's going to give us ways that we can evaluate if we're on track for our goals. And the SMART goal system or SMART goal setting will improve our success rate and our outcomes. And so the first, specific, right? The first S in SMART, specific. Our goal or our outcome should be clearly defined. Right? We should be able to understand what it is we want to accomplish. Like if we're saying it to somebody, if we say, this is my goal, they should be able to understand exactly what it is that we want to achieve and the actions needed to get there. So I'll use a couple examples throughout this episode. One is a workplace setting, and then the other is a fitness goal, right? So a workplace setting goal. I want to catch up on my reports at work because I'm tired of being behind, right? And so catching up on my reports, I'm behind in my reports. I want to catch up. That is my specific goal. Or I want to run a 5K. A 5K is, I think it's 3.1 miles. I want to run a 5K. That's very, very specific. And if we shared those goals, anyone would be able to understand. Specific. Now, measurable. We want to quantify the objectives, and this helps us determine whether or not we've met our goal successfully, right? So whatever we're behind in, I don't know if we're talking about the workplace goals, right? Maybe we are 20 reports behind at work, and we can measure out how many reports we need to do each week to catch up. So let's say 5, right? That's measurable, right? Or if we're talking about fitness, how many miles should I run each day, right? Maybe that's if I'm only able to run 2 miles, right? And then I work my way up. But we should be able to measure, quantify the objectives. Next is achievable. The goal that we're setting, is it achievable? Is it realistic? And do we have the resources to achieve it? So let's say my goal is to win a speedboat race. I don't own a speedboat, so that is not an achievable goal for me. However, if my goal is to catch up on the 20 reports that I'm behind in, can I get that done? That's something that's achievable, right? Can I run a 5K? Is that achievable? Let's see. I can run 2 miles straight. if I train, I can get to 3.1 miles. That is an achievable goal. Having a goal that is achievable, it's easier for us to maintain our enthusiasm, our motivation, our excitement for that goal. If I set a goal that involves a speedboat, that is not achievable. And so I am dejected and I'm quitting before I even get started. So our goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, right? So if I'm talking about the workplace goal, does that goal align with my company mission, right? Or my company's mission? If the goal is fitness, does it align with my personal long-time objective of being in shape, getting in shape, right? So a goal that's not relevant, that can be a distraction. It's not beneficial to work. It's not beneficial to my personal mission. But I know that when I am caught up at work, I always feel better. I feel more confident, right? I'm out of shape. I've always wanted to run a 5K, and achieving that goal would just help me feel better. I know I'll be proud of myself, right? That's something that's relevant. And then time bound. That's the T in SMART, right? We need a deadline. We need a deadline for when we're going to complete the goal. What is the deadline? So if the 5K is in 4 weeks, I think that's achievable. I can get there. I have a target deadline, whatever the date of that 5K is. Maybe the 5K is 2 months out, even better. I have longer to train. I should be able to meet that goal of running 3.1 miles, right? If the goal is to get those 20 reports done by the end of the month, that is something that's achievable. So even if I am, 4 reports shy, because I have a deadline and I'm working towards it, then maybe 3 weeks in to my efforts, I can look and see if I am on track to reach that goal. And if I am not on track, then I can make an adjustment. But I'm not making adjustments if I haven't been very specific about the deadline. So these SMART goal setting techniques, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. These goals can be used, or this system of setting goals can be used in any area of our life, career, fitness, personal projects. This way of setting goals gives us a greater chance of success. And sometimes, and this is important because, what is it? We're still in January or close to February. And, this New Year's resolution that we make every year. And, sometimes, before the week is out in the first week of January, we've already have tapped out. But maybe it's because we haven't set a SMART goal. Maybe we didn't set a deadline, right? Maybe it's really not achievable what we're looking to get done, or maybe it's not measurable. Maybe we're not making our goal specific enough. And when we quit on ourselves or don't make our goals, sometimes we can be disappointed with ourselves. We can feel regret. There could be some nasty self-loathing going on. But I think by using this SMART system of setting goals, that will help us achieve our goals and feel better about ourselves. I hope this episode, this information has been helpful to you in your life, in your work, your personal life, your personal goals. I came across this and I thought this would be great to share with the Nora Speaks audience. I hope you found it helpful, and make sure you share it with others who you might think it could benefit. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property. And to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. What I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, noramahammed.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.